Ladies and gentlemen, you're right back here with us on the Scenario Radio Show. As always, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you go into the scenarioradioshow.com. Go to the website. We'll keep you abreast of everything that's going on with the crew. Go to those old archives down in the Spotify playlist. And as always, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, each and everything regarding the scenario, you can find it there. Back over to Van.
All right. We're keeping things going here today on the Scenario Radio Show with our episode entitled, All right, I'm a Head Out, where we talk about Black expats in
so
all
funny.
of their forms. And so what we have now with us as our next guest is Juanita Ingram, host, a member of the show, The Expats on Amazon Prime. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We are doing good. We're doing good. Excited
Thanks
about
for
having you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And we got her up early in the morning. Well, she's already had to get up. She had to send the kids out. But she's up early in the morning and ready because she's in Singapore, whereas we are all contemplating naps at this point ourselves. So
I feel just so terrible right now, complaining about I just feel like doing nothing. And she's like, oh yeah, I got one off the bus. I got one. Like, just makes me feel so just lazy. But I'm okay. I'll deal with it.
So right now you live in Singapore, but you've also been in Taiwan and you've been in London.
Correct.
At what point before all of this started for you, was there ever a point that you had always aspired to, I guess, do this type of travel or to live elsewhere, or did it kind of just all kind of drop in your lap at once? How did that all start for you?
Yeah, no, when we got married, so my husband and I have been married for 18 years now, and believe it or not, when we first got married, we were thinking about our honeymoon, and we were thinking, our family was like, oh, go to Cancun, go to Punta Cana, go to Florida, because we're both from the South. I'm from Tennessee originally. He's from Alabama. And I have no idea. Well, I know I'm a faith spiritual person. Mm-hmm. God put it on my heart and said, you need to go abroad for your honeymoon. And I have no reason to think that, and no evidence that would even matter. But I told my husband right before we got married, I said, I think we're destined to live abroad. And neither one of us had left the country before then. And had never traveled abroad before then. So we went to Rome and Florence for our honeymoon. And then after that, every year we made a commitment. This is 18 years ago. This is before, everybody was Black and traveling. It was before it was popular back then. Mm-hmm. And our family was like, why you got to go so far? Mm-hmm. Why can't you just go down to, Jamaica is nice. Why can't, why do you have to go so far? But I felt on my heart that we were going to live internationally. Had no evidence or no reason to think that. So every year after that, we made a commitment that we would take one international trip to celebrate our anniversary. So after that, we backpacked across Spain. We went to Paris. And then shortly after that, we ended up, I started having children. And then maybe 3 years later, we got the call, do you want to live in London through his job promotion? And I don't think if we hadn't traveled extensively, because we were horrible travelers in the beginning. We were trash. It was horrible. We didn't know how to pack. It was trash. We were had the fanny pack, hiding it underneath our shirt. He would go in. I would stand behind him and watch his back. And then he would go in and pull out money. It was ridiculous. It was really unnecessary.
Not looking people in the eye, just not making
scared, just eating at McDonald's, even though you in Paris. It was ridiculous. It's just sad, But I think through those experiences and excursions, we grew. And had it not been for the extensive travel, I don't think we would have been able to feel comfortable to live abroad at the time when it came. But I always knew. I had no reason to really think that, except that I pray a lot. And, I had a feeling that was going to happen. And then now 10 years later, we're on our third country, and, here we are.
Very cool. Very cool. So what does the paperwork of the process look like? I know if you want to go and visit a country, that's pretty simple. You can go and visit. But did you have to give up any of your citizenship, or do you have dual citizenship, or what does that look like from a paperwork perspective, real briefly?
Yeah, no, it does. You don't. I think that's the difference also between, and there's been a bit of a conversation about this, the difference between migration, immigration, and expat, or
Okay.
immigrant and expat. As an expat, the expat intention is that you're going to live somewhere on a temporary basis. And actually, I
Okay.
did a show on it's on YouTube. It's called Trailing Spouses. And our first episode, we broke down the different type of expats, like the different paths that get you to where you're living abroad and what all of that looks like. Paperwork is extensive in the sense that you're doing more than visiting. So when you visit, most of the time, the privilege of having a U.S. passport in particular, especially when you're an American, you can pretty much visit anywhere without, except for like China or some places where you actually have to have a visa to actually enter the country. But for most places, like for example, Taiwan, this is before COVID, you could go and visit. You would have a 30-day visitor's visa automatically just because you booked the ticket and you arrived, and so you could be there for 30 days. And that's true with most countries. But in order to stay there for a long period of time, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be filled out. Fortunately, if you're a corporate expat, there are different type of expats. There are
Okay.
students, there are people, they're digital nomads now, where people are working abroad that are intentional and being hired by companies and say, you can work anywhere, or you can work in this place. But when you're company sponsored and corporate expats, it's a lot of paperwork, but most of the time companies help you through that. It's extensive when you have children and you have to apply for schools. It varies when you're on the European side. When we were applying for schools in London, you're registering your kids for school. Is not that, I won't say it's not that competitive. It's not that competitive to get in. It's more like when you register for a school in the US. You live in Asia, you are applying for school. There is no guarantee you will get in. And I swear I felt like I was launching my kids off into college with some of these applications.
Oh wow.
They go to, like, they want teacher recommendations. It's an extensive process, and it's a lot of paperwork, but it's not
doable.
overwhelming. It's doable. And now, if you did it by yourself and you didn't have help, hats off to those folks. But it's a lot.
Okay, something that I was kind of wondering. I kind of took a look at the kind of did some research, and I saw that you guys at one point in time you were coming back home. You were about to be back home, and then the conversation came about where you had to move out and go out to Taiwan. Just kind of take me through that, because that's got to be. I'm thinking as a man, I know you've made these sacrifices. You've done this. Your family is finally able to get back where they want to be, and now, okay, so about that, we need to leave. Like, how did that conversation go? I'm just nosy, and I want to know how that went, because I'm thinking it had to be hilarious.
Yeah, it went like it did on the show. I mean, it did. You go through a lot of different thoughts. So when you are the spouse and it was my husband's job, they automatically go with purpose. It's their job that's leading in there. But for me, so right after we got back from London, we were in London for almost 5 years. We got back to America, and I had to, every time I leave, come back, or leave, you have to sort of reinvent yourself, or at least I do. Every trailing spouse has a different background, different story. I find the commonality with a lot of people who walk away from careers so their spouse can, their promotion can take them abroad. It's a journey. And I had reinvented myself quite well, and I was settled into some things. And this time it was easier. The first time you say yes, but you don't really, you're so excited about living abroad that you forget about all the things that you're giving up until it really hits you and settles in. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what about me as a lawyer? What about my career? What about all my career aspirations? So I had to fast rapidly, but this time I went with purpose too, because I was doing the show. So it was okay, but it was still kind of scary. But it's the best decision that I've ever made.
This is the Scenario Radio Show. Real talk with a playlist.